You're listening to Musings with Morales, brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.
Welcome to Musings with Morales. I'm Morales and special guest Paco Arespacochaga. Thanks for coming back, Paco. You're here every time behind the cameras, but thanks for joining us up front again.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, Paco.
This is exciting because what people don't understand when our commitment to this podcast is solid, rock solid.
Absolutely.
I keep telling you this podcast scares the heck out of me because my reticular is now open to the inside of my body.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? Like my grandfather, mother's side, had type 1 diabetes. My grandmother, type 1 diabetes. And I could care less about the types of diabetes, type 1, type 2, until this podcast, guys. This is when I realized that, oh my God, type 2 is something that you can get because of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then having all the guests that we've had, that you've interviewed, I'm like, this is some scary podcast.
Agreed. And it's pretty common in my field of educating dialysis professionals that the things that we're teaching them to teach patients start to apply and they start thinking about how much they drink, even water, not let alone things like coffee or sodas or alcohol, what they're eating, whether they're exercising, and it actually...
Scary.
At my age and this stage of my life, it's also, I would say, equally scary because many of the preventable matters of life, I am starting to see slip away from the righteous path into, more of a standstill, sitting behind a desk a lot of the day, not as much time outside under the sun, activity. The things I like to eat and the amount I like to eat have changed. Even drinking, and we occasionally have a drink here at the podcast, but those
occasionally
sort of things,
meaning every podcast.
Exception of today. Thank you for coming out on an Easter Sunday, Papa.
Of course,
the time is valuable, and I want you to know I appreciate all of yours.
Thank you.
But to your point of sitting through the last, this is episode number 11.
11.
So 10 episodes, we've met a lot of interesting people, some of them that we've known in the past, some that are new friends, and hopefully lifelong family. But I think we agreed that we'd like to take the time to really muse on the musings that we've had. So, kind of thinking through those episodes, we had a panel on a breaking of the ice, right? It was a pretty diverse group of those that I would say are kind of living the example of health and fitness, to those that are on the end of helping those that maybe have avoided or missed some of the preventable matters of life and ended up on dialysis or with type 2 diabetes. Episode number 1, who do we have? Dominic, Omar,
and Jonathan. That's your triumvirate. That's an MVP roster right there.
Absolutely.
You got your preventives and you got your cure or
therapies.
Therapist.
Yeah. And that's something we learned from. I really took that away from our last guest, that treatment or therapy. I had never really thought about that, but
Sam, no?
Therapy. That was an awesome lens of when you're treating somebody, they kind of feel, at least in the words that we're using, they kind of feel that is there a way to navigate the challenges of where you're at today, and I think that's something I took away from that first episode, was that we mentioned that Hispanics, African Americans, really anybody in the United States with ethnicity
is susceptible.
Susceptible or in some cases more at risk. That's something I'd like to kind of take a look at. If we could think about that first episode and the discussion we had there. If I grow up in an environment, I'm more at risk for the consequences of that environment. Example would be, if I live in a neighborhood that's infested with gangs and I'm a teenager, I'm more likely to be in a gang than somebody who's not in a neighborhood that is infested with gangs. Agree?
I perfectly agree.
So the consequences of being in a gang are...
a lot. The consequences of being in a gang is you can go to jail, you can die, you can do sort of things.
You can hurt people.
Yeah. You can get hurt.
So the consequences could be long or life-ending.
Yes.
Right? And then when we think about similar neighborhoods, because where there are high gang activities, high crime activities, there's often also a lot of illness,
Yeah.
chronic illness, that in many cases is semi or completely preventable.
Permanent. Yeah, you're right. Completely preventable.
Right. So things like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, obesity, these sort of things are preventable.
Yes.
And we quite often see this connection between preventable and certain ethnicities or races in the United States, which that's interesting, right?
Right.
And something that Dominic, a longtime friend of mine, I mean, one of my closest friends along with you, and I was kind of thinking on the way here of like, who are these people that I'm riding with? And, you've met a few of them.
Yeah.
You're definitely one of them.
Thank you.
But he mentioned something about breaking barriers. And, I'd let him tell his story again to kind of elaborate on that. But breaking barriers in an environment can be tough. To change from what you grew up with,
Yeah.
what you grew up around, whether it be in your personal activity or maybe even in the way that you see other people.
Right.
Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah.
I mean, we all
Yeah.
have biases in us, right?
In the Philippines, I grew up in the Philippines, right? In the Philippines, there are certain things that you need to, like in the Philippines, respect is expected. It's not earned.
Yeah.
It's expected.
Yeah.
So I'm the eldest. Are you the eldest?
I'm the only.
You're the only. Okay, I'm the eldest, which means I have rights as the eldest. I have 5 siblings beneath me, and that was the term.
Wow.
That was the thing that my
6,
mom actually said. No one is beneath you, because in her family there were 7 of them. She was number 3, and she was beneath number 1 and 2. She could never speak
Yeah.
against or to number 1 and 2 without being meek, something like that.
Well, hopefully you guys aren't all in business together, because
It would suck, right?
Yeah.
So that was more of that ceiling, because when thank God that although in the Philippines you always had to bow down to your elders, when I came to the States, now I understand why not everyone is a tío and a tía. You know the Filipino culture,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Everyone's a tito.
Yeah.
Everyone's a tita.
We were just going over this with our staff after the recent trip to the Philippines of just the culture, the community, and you're absolutely right. So it is a different world.
That's a barrier, because here, like, you don't call your boss boss.
Right.
You just call them by their first name, and I'm like, why? That's so disrespectful, until someone said, Paco, respect is earned in this country. And I'm like, wow, that's a level playing field.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're third world and you grew up in a yes ma'am, yes sir, coming here, you gotta take it away.
That's interesting you say that. I mean, it is breaking barriers,
It
but
is.
to kind of think about the work ethic here in the United States versus the work ethic in the Philippines. And I'll tell you something that was palpable and I already miss is the level of respect and the tone of voice, even like it was different. Like I learned so much about myself, man. There, like I'm so dry, I'm so to the point. I don't express.
Say it again.
Yeah, hey, I got it. Like nobody has to tell me that. I don't think that it's mistake. I think people who know me don't mistake that for not caring, but it's not going to be a good impression.
Right.
And I saw the impressions that people in the Philippines gave to me. Everybody. I mean, everybody.
It's warm.
And it was so warm, but not just in the level of service, but even the way they spoke. Like I said, the tone of their voice was inviting, warm. Like you want to engage. You feel like they're family already.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know if I 100% agree with breaking away from that, because I think we're missing that here in the United States, and I would love to see.
But those are tools.
Integration.
Exactly. Like those traits are tools that inherently Filipinos have.
Right.
Which is why every workforce in the world wants to hire a Filipino because of that.
No.
It's just that there's a glass ceiling because of I can't go over my supervisor because that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then other people take advantage of that part.
Well, that's an interesting lens as well. So you're saying that the culture of the Philippines kind of says you never overstep,
Yes.
or undermine,
Or yes, right.
you're somebody that's higher in the hierarchy, I guess you would say.
Now, if you want to bring it into, let's say, this environment, right? What if an immigrant, to Dominic's point, you're a slave to your environment or something like that, right? What if you don't have the capacity to go against it because your mentality or your mindset says might be wrong, or
Yeah.
I might offend somebody.
Yeah.
Here, eat this. Or taste this. Oh, you gotta eat rice, but I don't eat rice. Oh, you gotta put carbs in your body, but I don't want to offend this person because this person cooked. And then later on, you're 10 pounds overweight
Yeah.
because you've been pleasing everybody.
I got a friend who's I like to make fun of him about this, but gluten intolerant, right? But it's serious, right? Like he's not going to eat certain things because it's really going to bother his stomach, bother his skin, things like
Right.
this. And again, I make fun of him just because we can. That's friends, right? But in relation to kind of breaking barriers that lead to those behaviors that, let's say, I think that's one that stalls an individual, like you said.
From breaking barriers, yeah.
But what about breaking barriers that can kill you? Like diet issues. I mean, you mentioned carbs. If you're a diabetic, that could actually be a very big issue, right?
Yeah.
The amount of carbs you're bringing in, crime, gangs,
Yes.
drugs, these sort of things. Those are all behaviors and things that we have choices about, but our environment can somewhat cement into us, as you just said, with the culture of the hierarchy. So what are your thoughts about what Dominic had mentioned? And I think his was more in relation to the behaviors of young men.
Right.
And then, breaking a barrier of kind of what seemed to be the norm for the men around him. Any experience with that in the Filipino culture or in your personal activities? I know you have 3 sons.
4.
Hold on.
When
right.
we met, I had 2 sons.
All right. How many kids do you have now?
5.
Okay, 5. Because it's
When
hard to keep
we
track, man.
met, I had 2 kids. Can you imagine?
How many did I have?
You had
3.
You had Justin. You had Camilla.
Jacob.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob. Then you had Jacob, Camilla. Mason wasn't around yet.
No, so I had 3 then.
Yeah.
I had 3 kids then. Yep. Well, we're busy. Huh?
Damn. But yeah, breaking barriers. You have you have to start from within you, and there will be collateral damages to breaking barriers because your old ways cannot come with you. That would be baggage. Like to Dominic's point.
Yeah, he was management at Best Buy before that.
Management at Best Buy, he got fired.
Yep.
Right. Shout out Dominic.
Yep.
So he got fired, and then him and his wife had to have a conversation. What do I need to do to become my own boss?
Yep.
But something pushed him from being that.
Yep. No, I agree. And, I know they're on a very positive path right now. I actually want to get him on here to kind of share some of the just since we've had him on. Again, don't want to spoil alert or tell his story for him, but really proud of you, man. So let's come from episode 1, where we absolutely saw, I think through all of the guests actually, that there were barriers to be broken from Dominic, from Omar, from Jonathan,
yeah.
which turned out to be a solo guest
Yeah.
on the next episode. He kind of spoke to folks that were ending up on dialysis but didn't really even know they had a problem. And it was like they were unprepared for the consequences that I think when we look at those barriers, especially on the environmental side, the societal side, like where you grow up, the demographic that you're in can really lead to a lot of behavior that can take you a certain way. In some cases, jail and drugs and crime. And in other cases, to obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and others. And he seemed to say that a lot of people had no idea that they had anything that could even lead to that. so that was really a takeaway for me, that people seem to be unprepared for things that are actually preventable.
That was a nail bite moment for me.
Yeah.
When I was producing that episode, I was like, shit. It was.
Yeah.
What did I do? Yeah, we had a conversation. Was it yesterday or the other day? I was talking to you about dude, my creatinine level.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, I just went to my doctor. She showed me. She said take labs, and that was it. She said you're fine. I could care less. I found myself checking specific numbers because of the Jonathan Diaz episode.
Yeah.
Especially when he said, when his dad, who is a typical Hispanic male, I don't need a doctor, blah blah blah.
Yep.
Finally, you have diabetes. Okay, what do I do to make it go away?
Yeah.
You can't. You're past that stage of making it go away. And then because of that, what did I tell you? Mike, I think I'm pre-diabetic. What do I do? But, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I want to, the doctor didn't alert you yet. Your numbers you saw were out of range, which is, I think, a very healthy behavior. That it kind of speaks to exactly what I'm thinking here, is that if we all just went, at least every year,
right,
got these things drawn, listened to the doctor on what they said, hey, this, that, this, that, this is up, this is down, this is what you need to do about it. Or they say, hey, it's right there, but did you fast before?
Right.
Because we can't just look at results and then go like, let me self-diagnose now based off the numbers that the doctor gave me before we even talk. I think that's, I'm
true. Yeah,
thinking about my mom right now. God bless, both my parents are still alive. They have health issues, but I think all of us, we probably tend to look at things when we find something out, we probably jump the gun, and go like, hey, I have kidney failure,
or I don't want to have kidney failure,
or you see, and it's a good time to check now, right?
Yes,
to go like, hey, what can I do? You're in great shape, you're active, you're successful. Like, what are the things that are missing? Is it in your food? Is it,
right?
We're both getting older. Maybe we have to start looking at supplements, things like this. But who knows until we find out. So every year go and then start to actually trend with a professional, right?
Yes. But can you imagine the impact of episode 2? If you guys haven't seen episode 2, you guys have to watch it.
I got to tell you that since we've started, a lot of things have pushed me to look harder at the things that I've been taking for granted or ignoring.
Like your weight.
Yeah. Thanks for chiming in there. But what do you call this? The composition of my physique. My weight.
Yes.
My labs that, they've been high, some of them, for the last couple years, mainly on cholesterol side, which has its own, horrible impact on.
What have you been doing? What have you been doing about it, though?
So, good time to just fess up. Nothing. I don't know. Let's say 5 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, I had pretty severe hypertension. I had pre-diabetes. And I had a lot of stress. Running a nursing home, just a lot of things were chaotic for me. So I started exercising. I started meal prepping every now and then. I stopped drinking soda. Wow. That's actually big one for me. And I know that when I stop drinking soda, I get back to my normal weight. When I drink soda, I'm a little higher than it, and my body composition changes. But, since we've started this podcast, I've been looking at, I want to actually challenge myself and then challenge others to intervene. So I guess today's zero. Today's day zero on it.
Okay.
I'll be sharing it. I'll share in a upcoming episode or in between this one and the next what the roadmap looks like for me. And I'm actually, looking to the people that we've already talked to,
right,
as well as others, which we have some upcoming guests that I think would really lend to this. Next Wednesday, actually, we've got a big guest.
Oh, yeah.
Egan from Hawaii. We'll share some information on him, but several layers to this intervention on my health. And there's always the physical, there's always the
mental.
Diet, but then there's the mental. And I think I got a lot of work to do there. I stay busy and I stay focused, but then there are things that you lose focus on when you stay busy. When I'm talking about staying busy, I'm talking work, right? So I need to start to focus more on other things.
So, to that point, time management plays an important role.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very ironic because as busy as you are and as time conscious as you are, you're not able, up to this point, if this is day 0, you're not able to find a time for yourself.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I'll tell you that just there's actually no excuses because there is time. There's 24 hours in a day, which is, a big part of, me well enough, why I have succeeded to the level I have. And not to say that I'm at any point that I want to, I can call it quits, but I'm definitely different than the way that I grew up as far as the financial means, the financial possibilities, right?
See, that's a barrier that you broke.
It is, but it comes with consequence because there are things that I had that my family don't have. You know what I mean? And it's not, you can't buy it.
Right.
You can only get that with the time invested, whether it's good or bad. It's still, time together is important. So that's something that I can tell you absolutely I've missed. So on the mental side, I have a lot of reparation to do in my family, my relationships, the people that, like you and the entire group, right? G3, JJ, Eliza, Homer and Mila in the field. I have these relationships that they're my family. Deneen, my children that are, so beautiful and like really taking the time to like try to improve their lives as well. I'm not there enough to, I guess, give that extra flavor that like this is who Dad is. You know what I mean? This is who I am.
Or maybe they see it already because
they do, but I think that I acknowledge that I have a lot of improvement to do on time management. And then for myself, when it comes to nutrition and exercise, if you want it, you do it. I used to do it at 2 a.m. in the morning or something. Like now I can say I have a lot less energy. So that has to be addressed.
Correct.
But again, great episode with Jonathan. I think we dove in deep and we acknowledged some of the barriers that exist with, we can say, kind of men, and then also to his familial experience, Hispanic, Latino men, right?
His is like more of an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Absolutely.
That's how I would sum up his episode.
It's cheaper too.
It's cheaper too.
It's cheaper too.
And then he scares the shit out of you. And then
and it's crazy is he does it with a smile on his face. He's very positive. I love his channels and the way that he presents just healthy, I guess, guided
recipes.
To dialysis patients specifically. And keeps the culture in it.
Yeah.
Because that's another hard thing is like, for the most part, eating healthy is like crap, right? It doesn't taste good. Like
he makes
you're
it fun.
Filipino. How about let's talk about that really quick. Like eat healthy.
You can.
Okay.
Like if there's bagoong, right?
Yeah.
Or patis.
Yeah.
Fish sauce, guys. If you're not Filipino, and
you're done.
Shrimp paste and fish sauce, just with rice. If you don't have money in the Philippines, my dad, like when we were growing up, I thought that raw egg mixed with rice with salt.
That was it, huh?
That was it. Like I was like, wow. And then my mom would say, let's put some sliced tomatoes to make it look nice. And I thought that's what rich people ate.
Yeah. And it still had an extremely high level of sodium in it, which makes it taste good. I mean, hey, good food usually, good tasting food usually.
But for the record, Mike, my dad died at 51.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my
no, at 50. My mom died at 46.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What were the...
My mom died of pancreatic cancer.
Oh, my goodness. sorry.
46, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then my dad died of a stroke a year later.
Oh, wow.
Again, lifestyle.
How old were you?
I was 20 when my mom died. I was 21 when my dad died. I'm actually older than both of them right now.
Yeah. You don't look. I was gonna point it out that you're old, but
But then again, going back to breaking barriers and lifestyle and those things, I didn't want to end up being like them.
yeah, we had you in G3.
Me and G3.
Yeah, and that was a good reunion. Wish we could have had the whole group here. Over the years, we've stayed in contact. We've worked together in different ways.
Yeah.
I think all of us, you and JJ, and then G3 on some separate items, and I've met some more people through the network. Eliza is actually kind of an introduction from an introduction of G3.
See, second level.
Yeah, actually, third level.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, technically, I introduced you to G3. G3
Yes.
introduced you to
so
Eliza. Right?
no, it was you introduced me to G3. G3 introduced me to Roel.
Okay.
Roel. And then Roel introduced me to
Eliza.
Eliza.
Nice, no?
yeah. Yeah.
But see, it's not about the introduction. It's about the longevity of that introduction.
Yeah. Actually, everybody is still. I'm still in contact with everybody. Great relationships, and something that everybody in the group really has kind of. It's been like one challenge after the other. Is you started here in 2009, right? And I think there was phone books still at that time.
The Yellow
right?
Pages.
Yeah, Yellow Pages
Remember,
and stuff like that.
I used to work for the Yellow Pages. I would call you, Mike.
Yeah.
I need to hit code.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. Is there a penny saver still today?
I'm not sure. And then those coupons.
Yeah, stuff like this, right? And then I was advertising in like a newspaper or a magazine that was
Yeah.
basically left in front of
Yeah.
grocery stores, right? Which I don't know if that's not a bad idea still, because
Still a good idea.
but I don't know. We're doing a live on YouTube. Was that around then?
No.
Okay.
YouTube was around. Going live on YouTube wasn't around. But YouTube was around.
And what about podcasts? Was that like a big thing back then?
Podcast was not a big thing, but it was around. Because podcast was created by Apple.
Okay.
And no one could fully grasp what that was.
You were doing something.
I was doing
back then already?
Paco in the house.
But on YouTube, was it live or was it like you?
I was doing it live, and then it was on Ustream, the same platform that Joe Rogan did back in 2011.
Oh, is that where you
2010,
started?
2011. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And who knew that it was going to be a big thing? Now every business needs a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was pushing you to do your infomercials
Yeah.
back when it was still infomercials back then. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, exactly my point is sometimes, changing for today, it lags.
Right.
Or maybe people lag, like me. I remember as a healthcare professional, like we used to have these papers, and then like if I would go to a professional conference, I just came back from one, I would have been like, give me pens.
Right.
Right. Like, I don't know. I use a pen here because it helps me to like sometimes just like, I don't want to have computer. Like I like writing things down when I'm just on the fly thinking.
Yeah.
But there's no more of that documenting with a pen and paper for the most part in healthcare. We went to electronic health records, right? And I was the one who was like, oh, this is crap. And, it's never going to work. And I love data now today. And, even meeting folks like you and G3 is really opened me up to like, let me look at data and use it, right? But I can say that I know I've lagged on having content or providing a service that is beyond a snapshot.
Right.
Like I've worked with thousands of people, and it's like we'll be together, I'll educate them, I'll train them, and then after that, it's just a memory.
Yeah.
Right?
I keep saying, I told my band, my bandmates and everybody else, when I saw YouTube, what came to mind to me was perform once, play always.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of video. I was telling this to you. Remember when
Yep.
when DES, when Dialysis Education Services, something you founded, when that school started, I said, Mike, try to get everything on video because you only have to say it once.
What was my problem? Why
You,
did I
you,
not want
I
to do
mean,
it?
you and the camera.
Yeah.
You were not comfortable with it or whatever. But look at you
Nothing
now.
has changed, man. Nothing has changed. But it's something I know that needs to happen.
So it's still an effort.
I don't know. Oh, 100%. Like, I feel totally uncomfortable every time we're here. I grew up, you take a picture and you have to stand a certain way.
Right.
And then you have to make
Put
your
the mic
face
closer.
Yeah, you have to stand, with posture. You have
Yeah.
to have a certain face,
All right.
right?
Michael, smile.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I guess, some of it has to do with that environment that I talked about, right? The people that I grew up with, the people that I looked up to early in age and what they were doing. You didn't really get excited.
Right.
You didn't really smile. You tried to always posture.
Plus, if you look giddy, your friends are going to laugh at you. What the heck? Morales?
Yeah. I mean, I was always accused in high school that I walked around looking like I want to fight. And that was not the case at all. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not a person who wants to fight. I will, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, again, I think a barrier that I'm still in the process of breaking. I'm 40, turning 47. And, those days are done where I can fight.
But don't confuse you being uncomfortable to you not being charismatic.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Big diff, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise you wouldn't have friends. And people wouldn't come to the podcast. But we're able to do that because of you and your brand. And
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So let's, again, change for today sometimes lags, sometimes people are the barrier, sometimes, going back to the barrier, the barriers that we're breaking, right, is
right.
I don't even think that I could grasp being on camera or being recorded back then, not just because of a discomfort, but just because of it's something that's lasting. Today, I understand that the lasting is really, really important. Like you said, play forever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around forever. And something that, again, I've got a lot of work to do, and personally, but I think that on the professional level, something that I've been able to do is teach, train, duplicate, improve a lot of people in the healthcare community. And I can only do that while I'm here.
Yes.
So I'm okay with this, in recording. And also, even from an educational purpose, we're working on those sort of things as well in the background. So let's go to number 4, which we had a really great panel of very high-level interventional radiologists, vascular surgeons, right?
Dr. Becker and Company.
That's right. Yeah, thank you. I mean, they're right up the street here, actually, about 2 blocks on Lakewood Boulevard. But the really cool group of guys. I think down to earth. It was kind of. I didn't feel like I was among these high academics, but they are.
They are. They're specialists.
Yeah.
You know what was so I don't know if people can understand this, but for someone who isn't exposed to what kind of environment, if you're a nephrologist, if you're the whole kidney stuff, right?
Yeah.
Fistula. I'm like, what the heck is that? What were you guys talking about during that episode?
Yeah.
And I hope other people are like me, because my curiosity made me research ways on how dialysis is done, right? Mm-hmm. There's the catheter, there's the fistula, there's different ways of doing it. Infection, to the point that when Justin was talking on TikTok, Justin was our guest, episode 9.
Yep.
When he was talking on TikTok about the catheter touching it.
Yep.
That's a no-no.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're following him. That's great. I saw that one as well. It's like, man, that was a great post, just to show how conscious he was of small movements but the potential consequence. And so that's really great you picked that up. Is there's a young man here who he shared with us his peritoneal dialysis journey, and on the spot he had a breach in his infection control. He was trained and educated, but that means he was actually curious enough to listen when they were teaching and paid attention, and he's got his life like in his hands, meaning that I should say he's got the management and the ability to perform his therapy himself.
Therapy, keyword.
Yeah.
We're jumping among episodes, but that's a Sam Trevino right there.
That's right.
Justin, whether Sam and Justin know each other, Justin is applying what Sam has been preaching in his life.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, he's able to do the therapy himself, which means he doesn't need people like me.
Yeah.
Although, there are people like me that will support his therapy and his continuous learning to be able to manage for as long as possible on peritoneal dialysis and any other sort of therapy that he may encounter in his life. I think he said he had done hemo for a short time as well.
Yeah.
Right.
But going back to Dr. Becker's episode 4, I mean, the 3 doctors, when they were talking, it's nice to see them, just amalgamate their thoughts in such a way that if you're on dialysis, okay, I'd like to talk to all those doctors.
You know what I thought was also interesting? They're on the surgical end, right?
Yeah.
And at least for me, as I've been a dialysis technician for 24 years, right? I've been on the floor, I've been in the administrative side, I've been in peripheral healthcare settings as well. But for me, I always kind of thought of surgeons as a little bit detached from what's happening out in the field. And it was really great to hear and have them validate that I was completely wrong.
Like they care. They actually,
They do. Yeah, they do. It was all about what's best for the patient.
Yes.
And sometimes, it can be easy to think that in healthcare, and whether we work in it or whether we're on the outside needing healthcare, that it's this business, right?
Yeah.
And certain facets of healthcare can seem even more business-like, right? Especially like cash pay and things like this, or things that have tools that cost money and can then become billable items. But hearing from that group, that what's best for the patient is what drives the level of care that they give. I think that's paramount.
How about this? The behind the scene, like when you're listening to Dr. Tony Becker speak and his 2 compadres, like that they will be talking about your situation, whether you're there or not.
Right.
All 3 of them are going to assess.
Yep.
And he even mentioned that sometimes their specialty don't really mix; they butt heads. But in this case,
they collaborate.
They collaborated. Yeah.
Now, again, what's best for the patient, and I think that's becoming more and more.
Prevalent, like a norm?
Yeah, because what I took away from that is it's tough to get ready when care becomes a need, right? And it's expensive.
Yeah.
When you're behind the gun. I mean, dialysis as a whole, if people, what they call, crash into dialysis without knowing what's going on, they're often hospitalized. That's very expensive, right? They often have a lot of complications during those initial days. That's expensive.
Time.
Medication, time, all of that. So I took that from that group, is that many of their cases are also, behind the gun as far as how long they want to have a catheter in the patient before they get a working fistula, right? That's actually really important to
remember when they said
mortality.
Remember when it would normally take 2 weeks, and they were able to cut short the transition from having catheter to fistula.
Right, the actual surgery.
The actual surgery,
And because it's like if you have a catheter and you put a fistula in, you can't use a fistula right away.
Right.
So ideally, and I don't want to speak for the group, ideally those 2 things would happen like at the same time, like catheter and fistula creation. So ideally a fistula would be put in before you need it. So if somebody has like late CKD4,
okay,
meaning they're about to transition to 5.
What does CKD stand for?
Chronic kidney disease.
Okay.
So chronic kidney disease is based off of something called glomerular filtration rate.
Okay.
That's something you can go get checked. I don't know if you have that in your lab work, but based off the levels, as it declines, you're in stage 1 and then stage 2, 3, 4. 5 is where you have something called end-stage kidney disease.
Now you're making me want to drink water.
Yeah. It's a horrible term that we shouldn't use, like the end stage part of it, but it's something that is part of the vernacular of Medicare. And at that point, insurance would kick in, or I guess you'd qualify for Medicare.
Damn.
And you would then also, at that stage, at some point, when you're diagnosed at CKD5, you'd be prescribed some sort of renal replacement therapy, like hemodialysis, peritoneal dialysis, or transplant. So if you know that this person is coming down the hill, right, what should be happening is education and CKD for, like, what got you here. Sometimes it's by no fault, or there's no prevention, right? It could be genetic or autosomal dominant or things like this. But other times it's preventable, and you know that, like, hey, you drink 2 liters of Coke a day, you eat Krispy Kremes, you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, you're not managing what you have diabetes in some cases, right? And you're going this way. So ideally people would get those fistulas, those grafts, before they make that transition to dialysis. So first day of dialysis, they would be able to put needles in their arm rather than using a catheter. That, I guess the fear there, and sometimes that's all a person can get, but if they can get a fistula or graft, it's preferred because the fear of a catheter is infection, and it's like a central bloodstream infection. So again, it's tough to get there if it's like, hey, you need dialysis tomorrow. Well, you're going to get a catheter.
Because there's no fistula.
Yeah, it's hard. That's a pretty invasive surgery. It's something everybody that's a dialysis tech or nurse, you should look it up on YouTube, like AV fistula creation,
right?
AV graft creation. It's I don't know, hopefully
AVF.
you got a good stomach.
See,
yeah.
I learned that from episode 4. And it's nice, because I'm a layperson. This isn't my industry. Mm-hmm. But for me to be able to, because I'm immersed in this project, in this podcast, I'm invested in Musings. I'm watching it, and this is I'm sorry, I'm digressing. But if people take the time to actually watch the podcast, you and I we're committed to this. In other words, we are really serving episodes that will help people veer and avoid chronic kidney disease. Or if you're there, this will at least put your mind at ease that there is a resource like Musings with Morales. Although we talk about other stuff, but then again, because you're the founder of DES, Dialysis Education Services, we couldn't help but just talk about this.
Well, we want to talk about, we want to muse, right? And I think everywhere I've gone, I mean, that's what I talk about. Like, you want to get me talking? Let's talk about type 2 diabetes, hypertension.
Right.
Let's talk about, why people are more at risk, because that's a whole big, massive mess right there. Like, why are African Americans, why are Hispanics more at risk than any other ethnicity in the United States? In the United States, okay? That's important to say, in the United States, right? There's a lot of stuff behind that, right? So, like, when I'm out and about, and when I met Dom, in the gym where I need to get back to, right? He's actually, like, really connected to a lot of professional athletes, things like this. And when I meet anybody that's in the gym, like, I always go like, hey, you talk to a lot of kids, right? Yeah. And I'm talking about, like, it's athlete friends, right? You talk to a lot of kids, right? The Hispanic, African American, whatever. You talk to a lot of kids, right? If I'm a Hispanic male of any sort of stature, or female of any sort of stature, like, then Hispanic children will also listen to me, right? So I always want to inject that into my conversations. I do that in the gym. I say, hey, did you know that African American and Hispanics are the highest? No, I didn't. I said, oh, what about hypertension? Yeah, a lot of us have hypertension. That leads to chronic kidney disease in many cases. It's the number 2, kind of almost head in head with the number 1, which is type 2 diabetes. So I agree with you. I think that, we'll have casual conversations. We'll have musings about other things. There are some things that are really heavy on my heart right now. Like, my dad is diagnosed with Parkinson's.
I'm sorry.
My grandmother has got Alzheimer's and dementia. My mother has a hip problem. She's actually getting hip
replacement,
right? But the older we get, the harder that
Yeah.
is, right? So it's something that we're preparing for right now. But we want to talk about these sort of items, and we will inject the things that are really connected, because if you want to talk about health, I mean, you run health down the line, and you quite often run into chronic kidney disease. It's more common than we think it is. It's like 40 million people in the United States that have it, you know, so that's not insignificant.
Think about it. Is it because we don't talk about it? That's
Absolutely.
why, right?
Absolutely.
Hopefully, now that we have this, we're talking about it, it could open the minds of people, young people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because normally it's too late, because you have your lifestyle.
Yep.
You're pegged to this. You don't want to change it. You think it won't get to me.
Yep. And then when it does, there's not a reverse. There's only a stop or slow down when it comes to hypertension or Jonathan mentioned that to us, right? That if you get type 2 diabetes, there's not a cure for it. Like, you have to manage it now. And managing it could stop the damage. You know, the damage from things like diabetes are not just kidney failure, right? Like, have you ever seen somebody with their toes or feet cut off or their arms cut off? Like,
my grandfather.
The number one cause of that is type 2 diabetes, right? Blindness in the United States. It's the number one cause of this. And then we go like, who's the highest risk and who's the main incidence of this? It's couple demographics.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's a big topic, and it's a sensitive topic, because when we talk about why are these people more at risk, then we have to get into the environment, the demographic.
True.
And then we go like, well, why is it that Compton has a higher incidence than Irvine? Well, let's look at who lives there. Yeah, let's look at who lives there, right?
Yeah.
And it's not simply the color of a person's skin or their ethnicity, it's that environment.
Yep.
I mean, when you look at Compton and you look at like the average household income and the high school graduation rate and the insured rate, who has insurance, who's seeing a doctor annually, these sort of things, versus Irvine, it's a much different place, right? And then if you say, well, exercise is necessary to prevent illness, right? Where can you let your kids go outside and play and not feel like they're going to get mixed up in something?
True.
So all of that's really, really important to start to think about, right?
Wow.
You know, I think no matter where we live, home is like really important.
Yeah.
Even if we grew up in the worst of places, it probably will always be home. You know, if I grew up poor, I probably will still have memories of home that will drive who I become in the future, right? And we touched base with two friends, Richard Cabrera and Luz Lopez.
Luz Lopez, yeah.
In episode 5. That was really, I think, a very emotional takeaway. Again, another takeaway type of episode. Hearing from Richard, who is a professional but has a personal connection to dialysis patient, his father, but also a diabetic, a Hispanic, Latino male. I think he's about maybe about the same age as me, a year or two apart. But his why, right? Why he is involved in the nephrology community, why he does what he does today, how he's imparted breaking barriers and actually career pathways for his children. So a very unique story there. And then Luz Lopez, who told us her story of being on dialysis personally.
Reluctantly on dialysis.
That's right. Crazy.
Shout out, Luz.
Yeah, I mean, just I met that young lady when she entered our class, and she took a class at dialysis.
She became a student at Dialysis Education Services, right?
That's right. Yeah, hearing that story of we didn't believe in it, avoided it till it was almost too late, doing in-center dialysis for a number of years. And then what really, really got me was when she talked about her mom.
She's a daughter of a single mom.
Yep. And just her mom's, what got in my gut was thinking about your kid doing dialysis in the center.
Yeah.
And then what it must have felt like when she came home and did it. And then I could be an active participant in it. Like that just...
Because Luz was her mom's life.
Yep.
It was just the two of them.
Yep.
There was this contrast and similarity between Richard and Luz. Luz at first was reluctant.
Yeah.
She did not want to have anything to do with it. She'd still drink her fluids, her liquid. And Richard, very competitive. I have to break barriers.
Yeah.
This is not how I'm going to write the rest of my family tree. It's going to change. And he was able to, and he wanted to get ahead in life to be able to have a bigger megaphone to speak to more people.
Yeah. Yep.
But the similarity is both of them came around at the end. Like both of them became advocates or evangelists of preventing ESRD and
Oh yeah, absolutely. And thinking back to that episode, so ESRD again, healthcare professionals should not tell patients they have ESRD. You know.
yeah, the end stage part, that's bad news.
Yeah, but do you remember what Lou said was like dialysis is not the end of life.
No.
She had that with even in-center dialysis because it enabled her to live long enough to figure out that actually I can thrive in life, and she took control.
Yes.
By something, and I don't know if you picked up on it, and it's not coming right back to my head right now, but what was her introduction to home dialysis? Somebody planted a seed, and then from there, as Sam said, it grew into a garden because where is she at today? She's, a business owner. She's promoting
that,
care.
yeah, home dialysis.
Yeah, she's transplanted, right?
Yeah.
So it's like she's rehabilitated, which, is still therapy involved, right? Transplant, still a therapy. It's not a permanent cure. It needs to be managed, right?
True.
But delivering care for people in their home, which gives them really the highest level of dignity and comfort that is possible as far as dialysis is concerned. Because normally you're on dialysis, you're sitting in the center with like 20 other people doing the same thing. And if you're like Justin's age, right, what did he say? Is like, it was depressing because everybody was in a different stage than I was for the most part.
Yeah.
They were older, they were more ill than he was, and that can be a barrier as
well. And you know what? That's a public chair. People have died on the chair that you're in.
Hopefully not. Dialysis is an outpatient procedure. So typically, if a patient was not stable enough to be there,
shouldn't be there.
They would be dialyzing in a hospital, and that's where you would have more morbidity, more mortality in the actual dialysis treatment. In a dialysis center, it's pretty rare, I would say, not to say that it never happens. I can remember my first time it happening, not in the chair, but I actually found a patient that was walking into the center, like through corridors of the professional building. I found him deceased.
Oh my God!
At the door of the lobby.
Yeah.
It was actually fairly traumatic for me. First time ever seeing somebody.
Wow.
Like laying there, dead.
How old were you?
24, 20. I had seen a lot of bad things in my life, but not somebody laying there dead, and somebody that I knew, and for years, right? So it was a traumatic experience, but it's something that, as we're talking about preparing, like that's something that I since learned to prepare students for.
Right.
It's like it will happen one day that you see a person who you care about that is in distress, that has stopped breathing, that their heart has stopped, or that you can outright say has expired. It will happen one day. And you need to acknowledge those feelings, especially if you're a healthcare professional, before
it happens.
Because you still have people that need you. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Is like if it happened like me, my beginning of my day, I still had,
more patients to
the whole day of patients that I had to provide support and encouragement and therapy for, not like come in with a gloom and doom and alert them that somebody like them had passed away that day, because then what are they thinking?
But imagine the emotional baggage that you're carrying for the rest of the day.
Oh yeah, it's something we have to prepare for. Like, you do have it.
Yeah,
It's not like you can just ignore it. But you have to be able to muster through it in a way that is, again, going to provide therapy and not stress or anxiety to somebody else. So really a big challenge.
And then staff is an issue also. Like you mentioned, that you helping out other people. And staffing has been a problem.
Oh yeah. I think historically it's always been a problem, but it's at a pinnacle right now. I'd say that's probably the main stress on the healthcare system right now is staffing. And we can say money is money is a big stress, but the amount of money we're spending on staffing these days has really skyrocketed since COVID, really. A lot of traveling, a lot of floaters that are high cost.
That's because lack of staff, permanent staff.
Yeah, you have no choice. You have to provide the Band-Aid. If I'm going to be able to keep my doors open to provide access to care and delivery of care, then I have to have bodies to deliver that, right? And it's like, I think it's such a tough business, because in any other business, if you had to pay so much for staff that it broke you, what would you do?
You'd stop.
Exactly. But we can't do that with healthcare, right?
You can't.
Like, I think that's a challenging stigma to break from companies that, like, they're making money all the time. They're not always making money, especially in the dialysis world, right? You can look at like the two big companies out there. They have profits.
Right.
But if you looked at each clinic of theirs, not each clinic of theirs has profits.
They're in the red.
Many of them are. And that's okay, because they can distribute the losses and the profits, right?
To subsidize the rest of the...
But let's think about that example. And I'm not like actually saying specifically any of the big two companies in this city, but I'm just giving an example that let's think about Compton and let's think about Irvine. And think about the incidents. Okay, they both have patients there, right?
Yeah.
But who are the patients? Did they have a job? Are they still working? Do they have a employer-based health plan?
Correct.
Do they have commercial insurance? Or do they have Medicare, Medi-Cal? Do they only have Medi-Cal? Do they not have either right now because they've recently illegally immigrated, which is something else we could talk about one day, because it's just like massive numbers. Right?
Yes, sir.
But, if a patient presents themselves at my center, I'm almost bound to admit them as long as the criteria is not exclusive, right? Let's think about Compton. Let's think about Irvine. Which one do you think has more people working still?
Irvine.
Probably. Which one do you think they have an employer-based health plan?
Irvine.
Right. And which one do you think that maybe they have more environment to go out and still take nice walks and things like this, right?
Yes.
So you have a different demographic. And when we say, like, if a patient is on an employer-based health plan or a commercial health plan, they typically pay a lot more than the Medicare and the Medi-Cal patients' insurance will. The cost of care exceeds the actual reimbursement.
The cost of... Okay.
In most cases, with Medicare and Medi-Cal patient. So the dialysis industry is like heavily reliant on commercial pay and employer-based health plans in order to make any sort of margin. And it's going to be slim in most cases.
So your Irvine and Compton scenario ends up being a wash, or even barely...
If you're talking about a company that can distribute. But now let's think about, I think it was about, right when we started, when we got together,
right,
there was a massive change from independent dialysis facilities. Like every nephrologist owned their own facility.
Okay.
They ended up selling them to big companies because of the amount of... there were some changes in reimbursement called a bundle. That bundle said you're only going to get this much, but you have to do all of that.
Right.
Staffing, medication.
That's when Medicare changed it to...
Yeah. And I think it was a very good move because it said do more with less. It's just not moved enough with the cost of inflation, cost of living, and then the wages that we're paying people today. They've massively changed. And just for an example, here in California, in June, they're going to pay the dialysis techs minimum $23 an hour. California. Not bad.
Not bad.
And then you get time and a half after 8 hours. So, I mean, it's becoming a really appealing profession. I guess up until now, like we've seen our graduates 17, 18, but
Right.
look at the jump they're making just starting in June because of this new law. So from like 18 starting to 23, that's a great increase, right? I don't know how the companies are
I was going to say,
I don't know how they're going to do it.
where are you going to get the money?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If the government's requiring companies to do this,
Yep.
it's like, where the heck am I going to get the money to pay the new hires?
I don't know, man. Like something has to happen. So,
Yeah.
We'll be keeping an eye on this to see like what the local impact is.
And take note, only in California.
Only in California.
So that kills the mom and pops. I mean,
It hurts them more than it hurts the big guys.
Yeah.
Because they can't distribute any
Yeah.
of this stuff, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking
So-
of staff,
Yeah.
our next episode, like we had Ernest and
Mm-hmm.
Kisaya, and you guys were having a conversation with regard to bringing in nurses from the Philippines.
Really globally. So we all took part in an activity, an acquisition activity of a company in the Philippines that actually does recruitment process outsourcing. So it's a long existing company that's been a part of a global franchise or a global enterprise, I should say. We bought a local office in the Philippines called Manpower Philippines. I should say we participated in that, not the whole owners there. With that, there are about 2,000 employees in the Philippines right now that are outsourced to different companies.
In the Philippines also?
In the Philippines.
Okay.
So like if you're an American-based company, you go set up your shop in the Philippines, our company is one that would provide the actual staffing for that, right?
Okay.
As you know, one of the largest professions in the Philippines is nursing and healthcare. However, a lot of the nurses in the Philippines are actually not even working as nurses. They may be working in American-based call centers.
Like my sister, remember?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we talked to her on the first episode.
Yeah.
And that's because they can make more money.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like you got to take care of family, right?
Yes.
And what's going to pay the bills is what you're going to do. But we got a massive shortage here in the United States. There's a massive surplus in the Philippines and other countries as well. So the purpose of our initiative is to work with American-based hospitals, organizations, or other, I would call first world countries, because we really are not about moving people to undesirable locations.
Right.
Or to places where they wouldn't have, a prevailing wage, healthy conditions, and opportunity to really...
So, U.S., Canada, UK, Middle East.
More on the priors.
Okay.
Yeah. It just... And I
North
don't
America.
want to get too deep into, why, but basically... I think if you were to ask the average Filipino, overseas Filipino worker, where would you want to be deployed to?
North America.
They would say North America, right? For obvious reasons. And remittance is a big part of it.
Yes.
Right? So
but here's my question, though. When you guys were having a conversation, I couldn't help but, just ask. So why is it hard? What's up with the process?
So it is a process that is lengthy, but there are also caps on the different types of visas to how many people can be brought into the United States from different countries, right? So it's a lengthy process, and then I'll say it's this way. It's a lengthy process that you have to get in line for. That's what makes it difficult. It's not hard. It's just a process.
But if there's an immediate need for nurses, shouldn't the USCIS or the Immigration Office, shouldn't they prioritize that?
Yes. It is something I can't really speak to or speak confidently on, but it's just very ironic to me that we have basically an open border for everybody who wants to come in illegally, but to work the legal process for actual essential workers that we have a crisis shortage for. I mean, hospitals are closing, dialysis facilities are closing. What does that mean? That there's less access to care, that there's a compromise in the quality of care because we're short-staffed, and we have a pretty simple support mechanism as far as immigration is concerned. I'm not going to claim that there are not risks with immigration changes, right? But again, I just think it's kind of ironic that we have a known issue of illegal immigration and we don't meet some of our needs through loosening up some of the legal pathways.
Yeah. I mean, even for specific professions, right?
Yeah.
Not for that would be a good compromise. Not for every profession, but at least for being a nurse or a PT.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be easy steps toward a better lifestyle for people in third world countries and
Right.
the rest of the world. But
Yeah.
that's what I found out. It's become difficult again.
Yeah.
To get in.
It has. I mean, I guess, we're in an election year. It's been a focal point for both sides of the aisle.
Right.
I don't know what to expect either way, but it would definitely help if the government would look at our needs and the healthy and legal pathways to leverage immigration
Yeah.
to meet some of those needs, especially from countries, that have a pretty seamless integration as far as the language spoken,
Yeah.
the skills needed, and really, I'm maybe this is very subjective, but the culture that we would like to have here. I would like to have here. The culture of community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Then, that episode was very fascinating, Ernest. Ernest, I was more fascinated with how he turned his life around.
Another breaking barriers guy there for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
He owns his business. What I loved about Ernest, and people should catch on to this, but we'll put bookmarks on this episode. But you determine your future.
Yeah.
And once you own your future, you're not gonna let someone else dictate how your path is going to be.
Yeah.
That's what I took away from Ernest.
Yeah.
Like you could turn your life around if you, not anybody else, if you decide to turn your life around.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And another thing that I think we're getting from Musings is that we're hearing things sometimes for the first time. And I remember Ernest saying that he looked at somebody on the street or something like this and was like, why? Yeah. So he was exposed to something that made him challenge where he was at. And I think that's really, really important. I learned a word somewhere in life recently, actually. I always known interdisciplinary, right?
Right.
But intersubjective. And it kind of leads to something that's been on weighing heavy on me as, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why is it so important? Well, it's important because you can't understand where somebody else is coming from unless you hear from somebody who came from there, right?
Right.
You have to have been in war for me to understand what war is like, right? You have to have been yelled at or beaten for me to understand, what that feels like. And I'm not trying to be literal here with everybody, but just experience spoken can then somewhat bring empathy to the person that's...
See, that's a key word, empathy. Like looking at it from someone else's lens and feeling what that other person felt at that point.
Yeah, and to see well, the rich people live like this, and this is how I'm living. What's the difference? Probably not much, except for something...
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And but then again, no one told Ernest, not even his wife, said, we got to be this. He actually figured it out for himself.
Yeah.
And then, of course, him surrendering his life to God, that played a big part also.
That's right. Yeah, and I'm not sure if he had exposure before then,
right,
or if it was just the point where he was actually able to accept it himself, right? Because he can't be raised to be to live a life. Maybe I should take that back, but it's within each of us to actually accept that life and that relationship with God or with whatever entity we believe in.
Right.
That's a personal choice, right? Your mom, your dad can't make you have that. They can lead you to it.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say.
What did they say? Lead the
horse. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't force that horse to drink from it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And it was so nice because you had Kasaya and Ernest, first cousins. She looked up to him. He was the cool cousin.
Yeah.
And when you look at him, like as cool as he is, he's got his blinders where I'm gonna walk the straight and narrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my life now.
So he literally told me, okay, if we go to the Philippines together, I'm not doing the after hours meetings. I'm doing only the out. Like, I was like, brother, I know you. Like, I love you. Like, we don't have to go do the after hours stuff.
But see, I mean, there's that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but watch that episode because that's a very eye opener.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and Ernest should do a one-on-one.
Agreed.
That would be a very, very interesting episode. High school life.
Oh man. Actually, I talked to a friend of mine from high school, and actually he did most of this stuff. So
Your tats.
yeah, so we chatted about him coming on Eddie Chapa.
Okay.
And he's in Boston. So see whether it's a live or he's got to come out here if he's going to do a live. But maybe we can do a virtual with him.
Right.
So we can have that conversation then, and it'll be interesting. Episode number 7. This was actually one of my favorite, most just organic type.
Marvin.
Marvin.
Shout out Marvin.
So what I got from Marvin was like, looked up his stuff. He's absolutely a great tattoo artist. I know he's really into.
I went to his shop, by the way.
When you're out there?
Yeah, when I was in Portland.
What'd you get?
Nothing. Just my Hello Kitty, but I've had that already.
You should have got like something, man, that would have memorialized it.
Marvin was a milestone episode.
Yeah.
It was the first time we did the whole virtual.
one.
Yeah.
Yep. I loved his passion, man, and I think he's a really courageous guy. And I kind of remember myself in 2007. I had just quit the school I worked with before because they basically told me I couldn't do it, or I couldn't help them grow. I wasn't qualified.
Wow.
With a bachelor's degree and certifications. Like I wasn't qualified, right? Because I wasn't a nurse. That was the reason, by the way. It was very specific. But I remember I went and I worked in oil refineries, right? And I was an electrician.
Wait, in the middle of the middle of the sea?
Some of them, the islands out in Long Beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of those, and then like Chevron and like Tesoro, a few of local ones, right? So I was an electrician, instrumentation technician, and I would be in lunch, like they'd be like, "Hey, let's go," and I'd be like, "I'm gonna sit in the van, and I gotta make a phone call to like the Department of Public Health because I was getting ready to start the school that I own, right? Or I was dreaming of it at that time. What do I got to do to start a school? Where's the documents? Send me the documents, and then I was going back and forth with them, and I remember these guys. Sometimes they'd hear what I was saying. They're like, "You're so full of shit, Morales. Like, you're gonna be here with us till you die." Like
breaking barriers.
I mean, if I'm in that environment, like I'll be very rough. So I fit in perfectly.
Yeah.
Like I'm very rough in the construction environment, right? Like I started working with my dad when I was 17. So I grew up around that, and like I knew how to act, right? The words were different than we do here.
Right. But seriously, that's a good example of you trying to break barriers.
Well, what I'm saying is, with Marvin, like it really reminded me because like the thing he said was the normal pathway to become a tattoo artist is you go through an apprenticeship. I've done those, right? But he went straight to a journeyman.
Like, I'm putting up my own studio.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And that's really ballsy, right? Like he jumped head first. He's got a family, and he did it. And that's pretty badass. So like, how important is it to have that sort of courage? And is there too much courage?
So blind courage. Okay. If you're reminded of Marvin, does it mean you also had blind courage at the time?
No. I think mine was a little different than his. And maybe his was, maybe they're similar because he knew he could do it. I knew I could do it.
So there you go.
Yeah, I knew I could do it 100% because I was doing it for somebody else. And I've done this many times, and I think there's value in doing it for other people first. Like that blind confidence in some cases could be really catastrophic.
Now that you're saying it, mine is different. Because in order for me to produce your podcast, I had to do it
first, the first time.
for myself first.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So mine's the other way around.
Yeah.
In other words, if I can confidently say I can do it for myself, then I can do it for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've absolutely done. You got a massive following. I think what is the biggest like Pinoy
Philam thing. Yeah.
Is that the right way to say it? Like I don't want to mess up, man.
Like Philam.
Yeah. So I just want to, I try to be as careful as I can with referencing any sort of culture or anything like this, because I think, I want to say what you want me to.
Right.
Like, if your last name, tell me if I mess it up, man. Arespacochaga.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's the way to say it, I don't want to like call you like Arespacochaga, So I think it's important to like, for me personally, to try, right?
Yeah.
But to an extent, it can be pretty difficult sometimes, right? Like, are you going to get it right?
Correct.
But is it important to actually put on the lens of, I want to call you what you want to be
Pinoy, called? Pinoy is good. Pinoy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're technically Filipino because you're married to
I'm just curious. What if I called you
Pacific Islander?
No. Okay, would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What if I called you like
Asian?
Chinese?
No, because I'm not. But I could feel for when I say I'm not, I don't have chinky eyes.
Okay.
Right? But see, my aunt who's Filipina gets called Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean.
My wife does too. She gets called like Vietnamese, Korean,
Japanese.
Yeah.
But then again, that probably isn't. I have to find my words. That probably is frustrating. There you go. It's like you're Peruvian.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's to my point is like,
if
my grandmother,
Mexican.
If you called my grandmother Mexican, she will probably stab you. Yeah, serious. Or any other.
Even Salvadorians.
Yeah.
They don't like to be called other nationalities.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say race, but nationalities, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's that nationalistic pride.
Yeah, agreed. What do you think about people who cluster anybody who they assume is, they put everybody in the same box.
Right.
They go like, Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipino, Indonesian, from Singapore, like you're all Chinese. What do you think about that?
No, that's then we should be under the People's Republic of China if that's the case, right? Oh, this is nice. You cannot sum up sovereignty.
Agreed.
Right? It's like whereas the Philippines is a sovereign nation, Vietnam is a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
They blood was
That's right.
invested.
That's right.
You can't just say, "Oh, Chinese." No, I go Asian because it's in one continent, right?
But that I like what you said there. That blood was invested.
Yeah.
And, like let's kind of take this to my side now. Like
Go.
South American, North American, Central American. Also blood invested and
right?
empire acquisitions or takeovers in all of those continents, right?
The conquistadores.
Yes. What other groups would this apply to? I mean, we have African American, we have African. I think there are black-skinned people in the Philippines as well that are not actually from Africa. Is that correct?
They're the Tasadays. Yeah, they're actually Filipinos. They're specific to a certain place in the Philippines. Then, but see, they don't want to be called Filipinos.
Really?
Yeah.
What is
Tasaday?
Okay. All right.
But they're in the Philippines.
So identity is important. I think
indigenous. There you go. That's yeah.
The sovereignty is important, like to us, right? So let's put the different side of it on. What do I see, and what do you want to be called? Like, how do we reconcile that? Like, if I am the person that says like, all of you guys are Mexicans, but then on the other side, this person wants to be called El Salvadorian, Nicaraguan,
right,
Peruvian, like. How do we reconcile the two? Is it even appropriate to think that you will see that I am Peruvian, or should I think that you're going to see a Mexican?
That's where names come in. That's why people created names. So to me, you're Morales. Then that's why our forefathers created questions, right? So I see you as Morales. Now let me ask the question: where's your ethnicity from?
Yeah.
Then it stops me from assuming. I hate it when people say, "Hey, I met this Filipino guy."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's the first thing
Hey, I met this black guy.
Yeah, I
Why-
agree with that. Yeah, it's like the first thing about you is not that, unless that's what you want to be identified.
Right? But why can't we tell a story? So there were three guys, right? Remember the joke when they say, three men, a Japanese, an American, and a Filipino, right?
Yeah.
I'll take that. Or you'd go, there was just Juan, Pedro, and Robert. You know, it's the same thing.
Yeah, agreed. So back to our last episode, jumping in head first,
Yeah.
it's got value.
Yeah.
There can be barriers again in our belief based off of teaching or culture, like the tattoo culture of you have to have an apprenticeship, right?
Marvin.
But he's such a badass that he's his art stands on its own.
And
right?
you know what? Shout out to him also because last minute shoe in as our guest
Yeah.
went in head first.
That's right, and it was late for him.
Right?
Yeah. Well, no, he's same time, but we were late. We were like 10 o'clock at
but
night.
but imagine, we were at the 11th hour. We needed a guest. We called Marvin.
Yep, he jumped right in.
No background of what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, he's like, "I'll be home in this time." And what we did, we went and
ate
some
Yeah, and I slept.
ate some bad stuff, right?
But then again, I mean, the information that came out of that man's brain,
Yeah.
to be able to impart, and you guys clicked it.
Yeah, I agree.
off. Yeah,
I love when he joked with us and said that he wasn't scared at all. Which I'll say, back to my story, like I wasn't blind, but I was scared.
Yeah.
Because it's like I can be the best mechanic in the world, but if nobody knows it,
true.
then I'm not fixing any cars, right? Or I got a badass car with overkill work on it, right?
Yeah,
Omar Khatib, man, that was incredible. Just from
another milestone.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and mindset, business savvy, lot of advice towards individuals wanting to manage time, like
Yeah.
you said, or maybe prioritize
Prioritize time.
that was really inspiring for me. It's just the level of connection he has to his family and the level of discipline he has to check himself with his wife.
How about this? He lives more than 100 miles. No. Yeah, no.
Temecula? That's
How far is Temecula?
I think it's probably about
80?
60 maybe.
See.
I don't think it's 100, but let's see what you get.
Let me see. Temecula. And the reason why I'm saying is he spent time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep.
He actually went out of his way, not like we gave him the option, well, virtual
Yep.
or in person.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm a drive.
Yeah. Well, I love that he said, that a lot of the cast that he's done were
74 miles.
Oh yeah,
That's quite a drive.
But a lot of the casts he's done, he said, were not in person, and I think there's a level. I'd love to have him back,
Right.
and just continue to learn and to share. I think there's some compliment that can be done in regard to that relationship. But yeah, it's just some of the things that he shared with us, and one of the things that he said is it really rings like true to my heart is there ain't no money in easy.
Yes.
Because
if everybody could do it.
yeah, and I did kind of rebut a little bit with him that the easy stuff gets you locked up, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want, and let's talk about that a little bit, because today maybe it might be a different story. Hard work, hard work at minimum wage, like it's hard to make some money, right?
Yeah.
Hard work gets you opportunity,
Right.
to climb the ladder, right? Today, which even since we met has changed drastically, I could go on my phone, I probably can't, but somebody much better looking than me, or maybe with nicer feet or something like that, could go on their phone and take pictures of their toes all day long, or there are other platforms where people are making a lot of money and not working very hard.
But hard work came into getting those toes to look fantabulous.
Yeah, somebody was scrubbing them or
Right?
filing them down, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Or hard work came into buying, to be able to buy the phone, someone had to. I mean, we have to go back to first principles.
Yeah.
I think hard work is, in my opinion, I can equate that with gravity. The liftoff always has a lot of energy, kinetic energy
Yeah.
involved in taking off. Even you and me, even with the podcast, we have conversations outside of being in front of, behind the
That's right.
microphone going,
Yep.
where are we at? What are we doing?
Yep.
You're Mr. Analytics, I'm Mr. We got this. I'm momentum, you're analytics, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard work. It's Easter Sunday.
Yep.
We're showing up. What was the question we had this week? Do we really need to bring episodes out every Monday? Who's going to watch? Are
Yeah.
people expecting?
Yep.
Maybe now, no.
Yeah.
But what if 2,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers,
Yep.
1 year from now? We don't know.
So I gotta speak to the subscribers. Like even though we've been at this now 11 weeks.
Yeah.
We've got 91 people, I think, if the last time I looked, that have subscribed. I went to a conference this week in Vegas, and there were many people that came up and said, "Hey, I've been watching, loving what the content. Love the content. There's some inspiring moments there. Keep it up." These sort of things. Somebody like me, right? At 10 weeks, you can imagine where I would want to be and
Yeah.
where it's at. But I actually feel really thankful to everybody that, we're approaching
Thank
100. I feel that way. 100 is a lot of people. And the information that you shared earlier about the way you're thinking,
Yeah.
if 100 people, 10 people have thought that out of those 100, like, hey, I better take a look at this shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to slip a little bit. And it keeps them from getting into the pre or the diabetic or into the hypertensive, or in future episodes gives them a tool to manage their emotion or the challenges in their life, then
Yeah.
man, I'm so happy with.
Here,
what
I
we've
haven't
done,
shared this, but I'll share it with you. When I started my podcast, and I hope this resonates with everybody watching, including you. What I told Janelle, my wife, was if the hours spent can touch a heart, just one heart, I'm okay.
Yep.
I'm okay because that person can germinate into more
Exactly.
people. But if
Right.
I don't do anything, I can guarantee no hearts will be touched.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing now, right? Sometimes it's frustrating. Like, how about this? You get to sleep after an episode.
Yeah. You gotta go.
I gotta go, like this episode that we're doing now.
Yeah.
I gotta watch it again and
Yeah.
and edit it, right?
Yep.
So don't get me wrong. I'm in the same boat as you. I could easily tell myself, I have my own podcast, but I'm invested. Before I said yes to you in doing this, I'm invested because what you're doing, I believe in. Remember what did we say about dialysis education services changing lives?
Oh yeah. Yep. That's what we're doing. I mean,
Man, it's the same thing.
we're continuing on the same theme, for sure.
And then we got the marketing team when we had that meeting. They're on board with what we're doing with
Oh, yeah.
Musings with Morales.
Yeah, it's pretty. That's what excites me when I hear that sort of stuff. Is somebody who didn't hear anything, wasn't thinking about it at all.
Yeah.
You've been thinking about this for a while. I mean, you've been with us for a long time.
Yeah.
But as far as it personally touching your behaviors, I think actually when we met, like there was a point where you actually really got healthy too. Like
Yeah.
the way you are, because you had.
Oh my God.
Your body had changed.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I-
So
I
you've
get
done
it.
something recently that was, and it's not super recently, maybe in the last 5 years or
Yeah,
something like that.
I did because I went up to 190 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Is you kind of like bulked up a little
Uh-huh.
bit, but it was soft, right? Like where I'm at right now. But I'm a little heavier than that.
But yeah, I mean, you and I, our synergy, it's a nice synergy because you're more the quiet type. I'm more the loud one. right? And then it's so weird because the loud guy stays behind the camera.
Yeah.
And then the quiet one is in front of the camera.
Yep.
But it works with musings.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
I'll try and get louder. but you know, it kind of fast forwards me towards Sam's episode when you just talked about, you know, the germination.
Yeah.
You know, you don't plant a seed, you don't germinate anything, right? And it's, you know, so many ways to say that, like, you know, the word doesn't go void. But I think we're trying to do the same thing here, is, you know, whether we're talking about the illnesses or the wellness or the fitness, you know, it's to spread good news for the most part. Like,
Yeah.
we'll, you know, I'll slip on my words every now and then, and I'm a emotional person, so what's on my heart is probably going to come out sometimes, and maybe it won't be to everybody's liking. You know, you're checking me quite often on that. But, you know, yeah, I think, hey, no seeds, no fruit. And in regard to what we're trying to put out there, like, any of those things that we're talking about could really help somebody.
And we're still on the topic of hard work. Doubt creeps in
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
It creeps in a lot. Like I'm not trying to rub it into anybody's face, right? But sometimes it's a self-imposed commitment to come out with an episode at 7:30 in the morning
Yeah.
on a Monday.
Yeah.
And you and I, like, with regard to our guests, wherever that guest comes in, we're gonna schedule that. We're gonna catch it.
Yep.
Imagine me, everybody's asleep, and I'm editing an episode, and to think we just came up with a live episode, but I'm like, no. We gotta stay consistent, and that's where my portion of the hard work is. Your portion of the hard work is touching the guest, you're getting rejected,
Yeah.
so to speak, right?
Yeah.
That's your hard work. That's your cross to bear. But then again, when it's all said and done, now comes my hard
Yeah.
work.
Finish up the packaging and make it aesthetic and
you know
sound,
what?
all that stuff.
Oh my God, people don't see this. And then when we serve it, we're like, not everybody watched it. And that's okay, because at some point in the future, if we know that we packaged it right and made it right,
Yeah.
you and I may be long gone. But then again, it may be that time for that episode to shine. We don't know.
Well, you notice the couple people that we've had on that have done podcasts or that are like creating content, they actually were like, well, you actually did a legit setup. Like, this is not a,
Not a Mickey Mouse.
yeah, it's not like a, maybe it's a hobby, but it's not just like
Yeah.
I mean, we're really trying to do something here and
Yes.
connect it to a lot of different aspects of life.
Okay, that's why I would say shout out to Omar for his compliment when he repurposed his episode
Yep.
on his own channel.
Yeah, that was great.
The way he described your studio.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
Yeah. Like, it's legit, right?
Yeah.
And just, you know, we're constantly thinking of what we can do to just improve the set. You know, day by day, step by step, we'll continue to make some improvements, and actually we'll set up other sets.
yeah, and you know what? Let's go back to hard work. Money was involved into setting up this studio.
That's right.
Your money.
That's right.
So think about it like, okay, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Those are the things that are important that people don't understand.
Yeah, 100%.
Did we jump? We jumped.
Well, we jumped to the seeds, but you know, so from Omar's, there ain't no money in easy.
Yeah.
You know, that really resonated with me for a lot of reasons. It's like, I know I've worked too hard in some cases, and then I know that I should work hard all the time. I don't know. It's
Debatable. Work hard all the time.
yeah,
And you've never lift off.
It's tough, man. I mean, so when I think about, since just kind of the more present memories for me are really 2009 on for some reason, right? Working out there in the field, you know, I was on time every time. Like, I was waiting with my card to, like, you know, right at the minute every time. And same thing on the clock out. I was very disciplined in that regard.
See, that's where I need to take a page from your book because I'm always Mr. Late.
Well, Hey, I learned about that, right? I told you, right? That I learned about Filipino time. Like, I thought that was just like a thing, like, oh, Filipino time. No, it's actually a thing. If there's a party or something that's not like a business meeting, it's appropriate. So we're okay, man.
Fashionably late.
But like I said, I've always been a great employee. When I was in construction, I'd say probably not so much because I hated it. When I was there, I worked my ass off. But there were plenty of times where I was like, I would literally like take the wrong exit. Like I'd be right next to the job, and my dad, if he's watching, is gonna laugh his ass off. But I'd be like driving to work in the morning, and back then we used the Thomas guide thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, I was supposed to get off on Beverly. I mean, I'd be like far from home, and I'd be like, fuck it. I'm just gonna go back home or go be with my girlfriend or whatever. Right. I hated it, but I went through an apprenticeship. I became a journeyman. Like I said, when I was at work, I bust my ass. I work hard. But then I also, at that time, it was such hard work, I started to think the way that I think a lot of people today think right out the gate is work smart, not hard.
Right.
And that's not okay in that profession. I'll tell you that. Like if you think you're smart as a union iron worker, you think you're smart and you're going to go like, I'm going to do this smart. They're going to be like kicking your ass all over the place. So like they're going to tell you run. I mean, that's the way we used to do it. We put rebar on our shoulder, we run, right?
Damn.
We climbed beams with steel on our knees, and it was nuts. It was
Wow.
So when I say most of the memories are 2009 on, maybe that's not so true because I had a really great memories working with my dad and my uncle in construction. But when I think about 2009 on, and really that's as a business owner, right? Owning my own business. I owned a business, and then I worked for the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's been the majority of it.
Because you were the staff, you were the teacher, everything else. Yeah.
So that's the majority of the time as a business owner, right? Then I was hired by a nursing home locally to help them to transition and sell. And I worked for them at a high dollar, nursing homes. They pay people like admins very well. I don't know if I still have hair or not, to tell you the truth, because I shave it, but like if I tried, I could grow some. But I think I lost my hair running the nursing home, right?
It's tough, no?
Yeah.
Because you have to deal with other people and their emotions.
Well, so that was the hard part. That's the part that makes you tired. But actually the hours too, because it was such a messed up nursing home. When I got it, it was in several citations from the state.
IJs.
One star, short staff, no patients, stuff like this. So it was a lot of work, a lot of time, and then they have 3 shifts of right. So that was 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, right? And like I would go check on all these different staff to make sure we have the right people and the right organization. Then you have to go to each. So very, very hard work, right? Of course, you got to work smart too, but it was hard work. Sold it. Continued to run the business that I owned, the school, right? Then COVID hit, and somebody said, hey, I know a medical group that is running the COVID operations in Orange County. They need help. And again, that was massive amount of work, 7 days a week, at least 12 hours a day, but usually more. And in fact, I would, in some cases, live in hotels in different parts of California because we were opening up sites. Yeah. So just hard work. But I was at an executive level. I was getting paid well. Okay. Hard work, money, right? Now I was recruited into a medical device company, right? And again, hard work. A company that is coming to market. So a lot of preparation activities, a lot of documents to be created and revised and sent back and forth between different sort of healthcare agencies, creating and building a new team, starting to work smarter at a director level with this organization, starting to work smarter, but still there's no like, don't work hard. You have to work. You have to work hard, right? So earnestly rewarded as well in this as well. So like, I don't feel like outside of the things that we mentioned earlier that maybe are, easier, like taking pictures of your feet or something like this or whatever. I don't think there's such thing as a success without hard work.
Amen.
Agreed with that 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody would be successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what they say? The only thing equal in this world is to be given an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, to be given an opportunity, that's where everything is equal. Now, I always tell people, don't look at another person's opportunity if it's big, because the big opportunities are grabbed.
Mm-hmm.
Those opportunities have been grabbed.
Yeah.
And the ones that are given are the little opportunities.
Yeah.
So, at the very least, you'll be given an opportunity, but don't complain how small that opportunity is.
Yeah.
Because it was only given.
Yeah.
Like your feet, if you were blessed with good feet. But
I have not. So when we went to the Philippines, my wife said, "You're going to wear shoes everywhere you go." This is just a joke between us. So she's like, "Your feet are so white that like
It glows
people's
in the
going to
dark,
follow
yeah.
you on the street."
Yeah.
Like white feet.
like your feet glow in they glow in the dark.
Oh yeah, man, they're like bright. They're like this paper.
Because you're, again, back to race. You're half white.
Yeah, half white, half Peruvian.
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go.
And again, like I'm not one to get offended by things. You know what I mean? I don't actually. So that's a good point. Go back to high school, right? Güero.
Güero. Okay.
Or wetback. That's what I got called. That's in reference to Mexican, like
Really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like it's a derogatory, right?
Wow.
So that's what I was called, like white boy or wetback, right? And I tell you the truth, neither one of them bother me. What bothers me is what you're trying to
Imply.
Yeah, like if it's derogatory, it doesn't matter if you call me my name.
Right.
Yeah, you could call me Morales with the wrong tone, and you're gonna piss me off.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm really somebody that I have a point, and then that's it. But those things don't bother me. Like the words that you call me don't. What you mean by those words bother me, and it's kind of like when I think about being given an opportunity. Neither one of those have stopped me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like in the healthcare field, go look for Spanish last names. We don't find very many, right?
That's true.
But am I exceptional? Not at all. Not at all. I work hard and I keep doing it. You look at me 2009 to today, you're going to say the same thing. That guy, if he doesn't have something to do, he'll find something to do.
See, that's respect right there, right? Your tenacity and everything else. But also when you said Morales, I mean, there's not many Spanish last names in the healthcare industry. And I'm going to segue into, that's why when you went to that expo, they knew who you were.
Yeah.
Didn't like the description, but they knew who you were.
Yeah, don't like the description, but So yeah.
We're not going to go there. That's a teaser for another episode.
Yeah, man.
Hey, but at least we're making a mark.
I agree. So Paco, I kind of looked at several of the episodes, and you've been watching our analytics.
Yeah.
It's
Not as much as you, though.
well, so what did I tell you? Like, and be honest, because I know you kind of like had a little bit of a debate with me on like what type of show did I want?
You wanted more of like, in terms of what? Pegs, in terms of how it looked, the aesthetics, or
Aesthetics, like talk, like because I
you want to talk to men. You didn't want this to be a cheesy kind of podcast. You want this to reflect your personality.
Yeah.
There's a reason why our lighting is this way, and the look of the studio. This wasn't by chance. This was by design.
Yeah.
There you go. And are you going to allude to our demographics?
Yeah. So I mean, I want everybody watching, but what I said was I wanted a masculine feel
Yes.
to the
podcast.
the podcast, right? And it's like 92% male that are watching our podcast, right? But I saw somebody react to one of our posts recently. It was a young lady, and she said, "This is so beautiful to see men opening their hearts." And it was about, well, it was in reference to kind of some highlights we've been sharing,
Yeah.
which I think really tell stories or paint a better picture for kind of the mentality of men. You know, we've talked about machismo,
Yes.
things like this, but Omar, you know, talking about what makes him happy, and then Justin, that he doesn't need to wake up happy anymore, but his happiness is
It's
in
from
providing
other people, yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
So Omar with his family, his children,
Yeah.
Justin with you know, other people's happiness. Maybe that's your happiness, right? So I thought that was really remarkable that, you know, in a masculine demographic as far as watching, and then really for the most part we've had a couple ladies on the show, but there's actually soft emotion coming out that has even admittedly came with sacrifice, you know, of one's own happiness. So you see all these things on the internet, like you ask a man if they're okay and they say they're okay, right?
But deep inside,
what's really going on,
right?
Some of the people, you know, I'm not sure how many are on with us, but some people who are on, they know me very well. And like, I have deep scars, you know, I'm sure you have deep scars that we don't get a chance to really, or maybe we don't feel comfortable in
talking
sharing,
about,
talking about, right? But we still, even maybe within the best that we can, try to make others happy. We probably don't always succeed. So, you know, I kind of caught something from those two that, like, that's 100, it really made me admire them, that's 100% like their mentality is to make other people happy. And especially it resonates with me what Omar says, like, my family is what makes me happy.
Are you okay?
Good.
So what makes you happy?
The same. I'd like to be better at it. You know, you can like mask what is going on.
Only for a certain number of time. Like what you said a while ago, there is a point.
Yeah. I mean, you can't avoid it. You can't, like, you shouldn't stay away from the things that are important because they hurt, you know?
Yeah.
Business is good, but there's a lot of sacrifice, you know, to do your best and want to provide. You sometimes miss the things that people need.
Which is you.
Yeah. So that hit me hard, man.
Hang in there, bro.
Yeah, that's what you know, I can do that. It's a lot of stuff has come to the forefront of my consciousness since we started this. You know, love for myself and for my family is a big a big one. Like, I say I do the best I can do, but then I know, like, there are things I'm not doing. And it's still that macho
Yeah.
that prevents me from saying things or making certain efforts. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry.
No.
That's just
This is-
maybe other people's happiness makes you happy is that's what I took from that, and it's touched me. You know what I mean? Like, family, other people, like, we don't have that long,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
We think that it's a long time when we're 20. Because I can remember, like, having my kids and thinking that I have all the time in the world to,
Spend time with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And same with my parents, you know, like, that I have all the time, and my grandparents. And, ultimately, again, what I've been musing on is, like, trying to be healthy on all levels. And I can't be healthy without that part of it, right?
True.
Or we can't be healthy without that part of it. Like, that's always going to be there in your mind, the things that you're missing with the people that matter the most. Why did I start a business? Why did I start a podcast? Why did I invest and take gambles? It's for my family, not for when I'm gone, but, like, for now.
To enjoy it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, to enjoy it right now.
Like your Vegas. Remember what you off cam? You said you had fun with the kids.
Yep.
You know.
What's the rest? Like, so I'll just say it. I mean, I went to Las Vegas for a professional conference, and it really didn't meet my expectations on several levels. From, like, what I took home, to the focus, to, I shared with you kind of somebody that was trying to
Yeah.
be derogatory behind my back. And the words don't matter, but the intent
Yes.
matters, and the impression matters to me. So, let's round out with Sam's episode.
Okay.
And his story, his journey, which we've only touched the tip of the iceberg with him. He's got so much more, and Lacey, his beautiful wife, also has an intertwined but also completely separate story of triumph.
Yeah.
So many things from his episodes, from planting seeds to actually yield fruit.
Even their love story.
It needs to be a movie.
Right?
It needs to be a movie.
These are kids.
Yeah.
I mean, when you guys watch the Sam Trevino episode, people will probably see that, okay, he's this old and he's a mentor now, he's a motivational speaker. But when they go back and digest the story, the decisions made were decisions made by kids.
Yeah. Really, I think one of the stories that has been told in the healthcare community, nephrology community, that it's been so impactful to so many. I mean, he's probably, I don't know, he might be like one of the OG patient advocate speakers, because I can't remember too many. Well, there's been a few, but he kind of made it like pop culture.
He made it cool, right?
Yeah, like people, every conference they're inviting him to come speak. He was like on the Spanish channel, did an interview with him. He speaks Spanish, right?
Okay.
But yeah, he's become somewhat of a celebrity. Very charismatic in person. Like, he dresses up in funny costumes on Halloween and all the parties that happen at different sort of events. But that love story, I think, is perhaps the most compelling that I've ever heard. A perfect match, right?
Perfect match.
Yeah.
How about this? He said that, remember when he said, if any of your organs fail, that's goodbye. But when your kidneys fail, there's dialysis.
Yeah. Yeah.
People see dialysis as a life sentence. He sees it as what? As a blessing.
Yeah, an extension. I mean, it's not like Lou said, right? Life can even start there.
Right? See that mind shift and that paradigm shift.
Yeah.
If people can take a page out of their testimony, even with your testimony right now of how you feel toward your family and yourself, that moment of vulnerability, if people can just apply that to themselves, we've done our job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I need to start with myself. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like reflection, right?
Yeah.
And hence musings, right? It's
Yeah.
like, what do I sit there and like dwell on, and what do others? I mean, what are the topics that you don't talk about that you need to talk about?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And maybe we don't have to get into every specific, but even, somebody in a conference years ago, and I hate crying and I hate that I did that on podcast, but somebody in a conference years ago said that like a couple minutes of actual tears is like hours of actual stress relief from physical exercise. Like, you're stressed, right? Go exercise for like 8-9 hours, I think it was. Like high intensity versus 5 minutes of actual tears. Like the amount of stress hormone that comes out in the tears it's totally outweighs the stress reduction. And so I don't do that very often. Maybe I won't have
But thanks for your vulnerability. I mean, thank you. Again, another milestone in our friendship. Dude, milestones after milestones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess let's lighten it up a little bit, and maybe we can take a book out of or a page out of Sam's book of
Right.
the jokes, and you can probably guess how many good jokes I know.
Probably a lot.
No,
No?
no, I got none. So what's the best joke that you got
I mean,
for
what-
us,
what-
man? Or what? Anybody who's still with us, what's the best joke that you got to lighten it up a little bit? It's Easter. We're supposed to be moving into this day super happy, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, since we have so many kids, there was this competition between an American, a Japanese, and a Filipino. Okay. So American goes into the arena and says, "I have 50 sons and 60 daughters." And everybody clap their hands, right? So that's fine. Japanese comes in. Japanese goes, I have 100 sons and 200 daughters. And everybody claps, right? So everybody was anticipating. I mean, how can a Filipino from a third world country have more than what the American and the Japanese had, right? So the arena was quiet. There were thousands of people. Filipino was not showing up. And later on, people were stomping. It was getting louder. And then everybody started chanting, "Daddy, Daddy."
The whole arena's just so that's funny you say that, because that's pretty true, huh? Like I heard about some guys over there that like have like hundreds of like, wow, like that's incredible.
In a third world country, huh?
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, the woman that could birth that many children has got to be incredible.
Who said it was one woman?
I know. That's crazy. But hey, Paco, happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
And thank you so much for being a good friend as well as a business colleague. Let's continue the work together. Hopefully we impact at least the one heart that we talked about today.
This episode has been brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.